Russia, again, I repeat, we're part of the global majority. We partnership with a lot of member states that allow us to reorient our other politics and connections. If they won't buy our gas today in Germany, India will buy it. So Germany has to put their industries to the United States, be more profitable for them. And that their economics will have a recession. We see that Standard Poor's agencies, they understand that Russian GDP is growing. Just like we have problems. Yes, everybody else has them. Next year they will have increased the VAT. We have certain tax pressure, but it is far less than in the United States. And yes, we are growing a certain rhythm, but you have to understand that the territory of the United States, from the moment its foundation, was never under military attacks.
Right.
And they didn't have another state there, like we had the Russian Empire, then Soviet Union, and then Russia. So in 1 century, we have lived through quite a few shakings. 1917, we had a revolution where empire fell apart. We started building our economy from scratch. Lenin came with new economical paradigm. Then communists started rebuilding the whole system in our country. In 1993, USSR fell apart, and it was a total chaos here. So Russia is only, 30 years old?
Yeah.
And in 30 years, it has reached a lot. And that due to Mr. Putin, because he was able to keep and to multiply of what was left after Yeltsin's rulership, who was close with the United States. And he didn't like anything that belonged to Soviet Union. And in 25 years, we have made a huge leap. Because we developed what the resources that we have. We are the biggest country in the world.
Right.
We have the whole Mendeleev chart. We cannot be poor. We worked for today to increase our production potential, having the external trading relations with already developing countries, because the first 15 years after USSR fell apart, we were oriented for the West.
Yes.
We had Western expats and the big companies like Gazprom, Rosneft. They told us how they need to build companies, how to handle business, how to have external relations and trading. And now everything has changed. And we change also to the better part. We will continue to work with the growing economy of India, China, and other states.
Yeah, that is the... you're fortunate at your young age. When I was your age, I thought I was old, but trust me, more years ahead. You're witnessing the birth of a new international economic order. That it is the 80-year-old system created in the aftermath of the Great Patriotic War, World War II, where basically the gold, but then the dollar became the cornerstone. IMF, World Bank, Bretton Woods, you had this whole infrastructure built up, but it's really predicated on what I call a colonial model, a colonial mindset, that you're in a position to tell others what they need to do, and you've got coercive tools to force them if necessary. Whereas what I see coming out of BRICS with the leadership of Russia and China, it doesn't have that mentality, we're the boss, we're going to tell you what to do, and you better come with us and stay away from it. It's not like that. Is that how you see it?
Yes, of course. We see, for example, United States example. Donald Trump came to East, had some kind of contracts, deals in Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and they gave him splendid, wonderful plane.
Right.
That he promised to fly, and in a month the ally of the United States. They hit the territory of Qatar, and they were bombing Hamas. That says that the United States cannot control the economy. They cannot work their external allies and speak that by the blackmailing the conversational language. But we are speaking that we are creating architecture of economy for global world. We don't want any more earthquakes, because starting from 2008, that a system with a credit system in the United States with a house lending, it was a huge recession. It fell into the whole world, and we felt it even here in Russia, because the investment potential was truly fell down, and Western countries said that they are depending on internal state of not just European markets, but American markets. Plus, we saw that by investing huge money, over $500 billion to Europe, placing that money on accounts, after the beginning of the special operation, that money was frozen, and we never got our money back. That money was stolen. Again, it confirms how the system in the West works. And at the same time, from our side, we continue to supply gas. We keep our word. And United States get the resources from Russia. Ferro metals. They have sanctions against the everyday use products, but they cannot put sanctions against the natural monopolies, because those monopolies, they would create a pressure inside the U.S. We saw what, as soon as Trump started speaking about sanctions towards China, like duties, China started controlling the supply of the metals, rare metals. Then minerals. Trump's administration hit the head. And what we see is that the United States cannot cut themselves off from the rest of the world. They're independent from Russia, from China, and other countries. So when a new person comes into the new house, or administration speaks that Russia has to be destroyed, because for any such destroyment, American people will pay for it, taxpayers or regular people who makes the purchase at the regular store. And the American industry would pay for it. They will not get the metals and other resources, even uranium, fuel that they use for American nuclear stations. Russia, because Russia is the biggest warehouse for that.
Actually, I don't think they understand. Russia's already been destroyed once, but the destruction that took place after '91 through the 1990s until Putin came into office in August of 1999, that was true economic devastation. Now you were just a baby, or a toddler back then. But how did that affect your parents and your broader family, that economic chaos during the 1990s? Do you have any memory of it at all?
I was born in '89. I was a small kid, 94, 95, 96. I went to school, I remember.
Wait. Let me stop you there. You were a young kid, but judging by your size, I think you were probably a big kid.
Yes, I played basketball. And I had to go to Alabama to play there.
Oh, really?
Prep school.
Yes, prep school. I remember that time. It was serious collapse in Russia.
был разгул бандитизма.
A lot of bandits on the streets.
Раз началась первая чеченская
We had first Chechen War.
мужчины
A lot of people that were
туда, было очень много
called for duty. A lot of betrayals.
много плохого, что пришло к нам.
A lot of bad things came from the West.
Эмигрировали,
A lot of people immigrated that had any money.
Yeah.
приватизация,
Privatization started.
предприятия очень серьезно пострадали.
A lot of industry
Элементарных
companies lost because of that. We didn't have elementary products. Everything,
Советского Союза была
the whole industry from the Soviet Union was just destroyed.
те военные заводы,
All
которые
those military plants that belonged to the state in 90s,
принадлежали
they belonged to private businessmen.
Yeah.
And they did anything they wanted. And some patriots saved them, some just cut them into metal and just ran out that beautiful equipment, rare equipment, at the price of the scrap metal. And it took us 10 years living in that country, and not one American president would never come back to that time. And I see kids that were then born and the people that still remember that time, the late time of the Soviet Union. They don't want to get back to those events. You cannot blow the Russian economy as bad as it happened in 1991.
Right. That's the point.
You cannot destroy us, and if we don't have as many people who would betray the country that are ready to do by the White House.
Yeah. And this, in fact, at the start of the special military operation, there was the assumption, and I think it was also the prediction of the CIA analysts, that Russia would collapse, that Russia would not be able to withstand the sanctions, the pressure. How surprised do you think President Putin and the rest of his leadership team, do you think they were surprised with the resiliency of the ability of Russia to sustain growth despite the oppressive sanctions?
There's a Jewish joke, is that people say bad about you. When you were not here, when I'm not there, they can beat me up. So when we hear news and the propaganda they have on American TV and European TV channels, we don't understand what country they're talking about.
Yeah.
It's like a Marvel metaverse, where they have Russia and they speak about that country and not about the country where I live, my partners and my friends. Because in the first months of special operation, when we were reading the reports from CIA, that Ministry of Defense prepared the reports, it was very strange to read it because it spoke about weak analytics.
Yeah.
Something happened. Some vectors has changed. Maybe in Langley or somewhere there. And the people that were counting that as elites during the Cold War, they have left their positions, and a place was taken some kind of rookies that don't understand what they talk about, though they have all the possibilities to control, manage, and watch after possible things on the cyber service, but they use political propaganda with towards their personal ambitions. And we see in the end that Biden left, but Russian economy is still standing. It's not destroyed. Russian sovereignty is standing here. We're still living here. We have never left. We are fighting 5,000 square kilometers each time.
Ни одно
And of course, not one American weapon that is supplied as of today to Ukraine never helped change the path of the war, because we understand what we are fighting for, and we understand that we have the idea. It's not a commercial war like U.S. is fighting. Iraq or Afghanistan, it's the war of idea, because we understand exactly what we fight for.
Do you think the Russian people understood that, or at least the Russian leadership understood that at the outset? Or do you think that that's something they discovered as time went on? They went, and let me use the example. I never went to an Ivy League school. I was on CNN once debating Alan Dershowitz, a Harvard professor who has gone to Ivy League schools. Until you debate an Ivy League school Harvard professor, you may think, oh, I can't compete with him. But when I was put into the position of competing with him, I defeated him in the debate. And my friends took great delight and said, man, you smoked him. You know, he was embarrassed. I get the same sense that's what happened to Russia. At the start of the special military operation, there was some trepidation, some concern that, oh, are we going to be able to survive this? Or are we strong enough? And then as time went on, not only were you strong enough, but Russia emerged as the fourth largest economy in the world when measured by purchasing power parity under GDP. So was there that gradual discovery of, hey, we're stronger than we thought?
Мы не знали, что
We didn't know that the special military operation would last that long. We understood that
быстрой прогулки не получится.
it won't be a short walk.
И тогда, если вы
And then, if you remember,
были стамбульские консультации,
they had consultations in Istanbul.
документы,
Right.
которые
They were prepared the documents
подписать украинская сторона,
that Ukrainian side supposed to sign, and we took the military from Kiev. We didn't take Kiev, but Boris Johnson and our president spoke about it, and he stopped Zelensky to sign Istanbul agreements, and the war continued.
триггером
The trigger of the continuation of the military action was Great Britain, England, and England works actively in Ukraine,
наверное, бенефициар
and the biggest beneficiary,
Англия,
that's the England,
но опять же,
France, and Germany. I would give leading role to England. I don't understand why they need it, but I see that
под внешним давлением
under the external pressure, any power, any strength, any human capital,
имеет возможность сплотиться.
it has a possibility to be united under one idea. We had that when we had World War II.
Весь советский народ восстал против
The whole Soviet Union stood up against the aggressor, and we have reached the victory.
была уже захвачена.
Because the whole Europe was taken by the Nazis.
Все знали, что это серьезно.
And everybody knew it was a serious power. And it was difficult to fight. And England was afraid to fight with Germany.
Но в итоге
And they were expecting what Hitler would do then. He went to Soviet Union and he lost.
делал то же самое. Раз в 100
And the
лет
West did the same thing. You know, once per 100 years starts the Crimea War. We have
раз в 100 лет Запад объединяется.
once per 100 years, the West gets united to get the hits from Russia. So Russia would, you know,
Видим из истории,
kick them on the butt. And we see that constant war starting from 17th century. And Western countries, they get united, they unite their economy, they go over to get Russia.
всегда проигрывают.
But they always lose.
Исторически
Yeah,
понимаем,
yeah.
это сегодня
And historically, we understand
по-новому.
it's at the level of our
Как-то обороняться.
at our Henham Code, and it's we prove to the world the right for existence of the many-polar development.
Yeah, this the other aspect that I don't think the West anticipated was the depth of Russia's industrial capability to produce, more artillery shells, more tanks, more armored vehicles, but also to be in the forefront of producing drones and hypersonic missiles, something the West can't do. I mean, the West is struggling to produce drones, cannot produce hypersonic missiles, hasn't yet deployed one that's effective, cannot keep pace with Russia on artillery production or on tank production. Russia's building brand new tanks every year. All that the Pentagon's doing is refurbishing old tanks. So when do you think it sort of dawned upon Russia's economic leaders that we're in a completely new world? Or did it?
If we take about military complex, yes, indeed, Russia is ahead of all the West countries, and there's Wunderwaffe, or they don't have it. To win over Russia, if we continue to go from the nuclear weapons to the shooting weapon, that Russia is over Western analogs, starting from Minuteman rockets, and what we have are RS rockets that are flying further and carry nuclear warheads more than Minuteman III. We understand that in the case of global nuclear war, we have certain priorities. Plus, if we take a look at the American forces, military forces, they have their striking parts from the air units that are located in the different parts of the world, in Atlantic, Persian Gulf to Pacific Ocean. And the United States was very proud about their boats, but they understood that they don't have the funds for the anti-missile defense, and that they can take out high-sound rockets on just a couple of hits of the Russian sword missiles, and Abraham Lincoln or Bush Sr. would go underwater of any ocean. We understand that. We have seen how American Abrams are burned in the Ukrainian fields. Only 2 drones hit it, and each one of them was like $2,000, and each tank was over $10 million. They just almost destroyed the tank. And the United States have today changed their war doctrine, and our economy, yes, it keeps getting on rails of the deficit that was created in 2022, and we can do a lot of things on our own, but we have to understand that today we will not produce everything that is around us. There's China, they sell it to us. There are other countries that will sell it to us, and we would have the same machinery, same phones as regular Americans, probably cheaper than in the United States. So you know that. We see it clearly because we have a parallel import. So in a modern world, you can't isolate the country and superpower like Russia. It's a big mistake, and finally Trump started to understand that, and today he's pressing on Zelensky that he would turn into the peace relationship talks and start to translate not the England position, but he would start the position that would not just help and save the lives of Ukrainian citizens and soldiers, but it would help come out from this crisis, regional crisis in Europe, war with Ukraine. They would turn into global crisis because Western countries started actively carry sanctions. And what did they get? Germany get a lot of problems in the economy. Today, even big automobile holdings, they spread around the world because they cannot work in Germany. Same thing we have in France. In France, there's Rolex index, where you go in Paris and even at a Mars field, and they would take off Rolex and will hit you in the face. No, you don't have it in Russia. You can dress it the way you can. No bandit will come close to you. Even in the furthest regions in the center, even in the other city, we don't have bandits and hooligans are running on the streets. The West have put a bet on their own horse, and they're losing. And this is why they're making Russian market more interesting for China, for India, and other investors. Because for them it sounds more stable. And they understand quite clearly that Russia is not a euro clerk. We're not going to keep the actives. We're not going to steal somebody else's money.
Right.
If somebody invests the money into our economy, they get the partnership. And not just like United States, they are ready to work only the conditions of the colonial agenda. Or England, that was killing all the potential. All they can do is just do the influence operation and try to manipulate the market. And this manipulation brings to recession not just the whole European Union, but for example, Hungary, Czechs, they cannot refuse from Russian gas, just like Serbia. And they pressure them that they would refuse from Russian gas and from carbohydrates, but they will pay for the heating in a regular house 10 times more hydrocarbons. And nobody would do that because the income from European countries are not growing. And it happens that there's a torn economical model at first of all, following their political ambitions, they have a politics of the self-liquidation of their economy.
Yeah, political, the intersection of the politics and economics is something that would, particularly in the West, there's a big disconnect. Final question for you. What's in the future for you? What does your next 3 to 5 years look like?
I think that by 2030 we will face a huge global crisis. We see that in the United States, the deep state take revenge and they want to move away new Republicans of MAGA that want to see other instruments of political influence inside the Republican Party. More conservative, more adequate. They see the development of the United States. They try to move them away. We can see the meetings takes place. It's a huge preparation for the election of 2026. Then Trump leaves. And there will be big problems. EU is now, well, by 2030 they can spin new problems, and that will be some strong argument between. It already would be at the state of the other state, Ukraine. There will be another war between Russia and other territories. That the fifth article of NATO wouldn't work. So they wouldn't take intercontinental weapons. We see now that Trump is starting to slow down the supply of guns to Ukraine, but Germany is ready to supply their towers to Ukraine. And we see that England, France, more and more than Germany and others, they are signed up the increase of the military budget. If you buy a lot more weapons, then you have to use it somewhere. It's clear. So I think by 2030, we can have a very serious economical and military crisis because globalists are the ones that are sitting among the Democrats in the United States and their allies. They have to answer. And they don't have other explanations. How can they explain it to the society, the problems that they have? Macron cannot find internal description of why in his country are so serious problems. They have in Marseille, in Lyon, and Paris, you can be robbed at any time. Why country has went back to the like a black hole that was never there. And maybe Europeans will understand that the further development would be the military attack with China or Russia, or maybe EU separation, and the EU would fall apart. We have seen Brexit. We see that England left EU. Any other country can repeat that. Because Brussels is really pushing. In 2019, I spoke with von der Leyen, and we discussed about the future, and I understood that she depends greatly on those people who support her. And these are globalists that are important to understand how the financial flows inside the EU would be spread out and who would get them. But in all these institutions, there is no place for regular European. For them, a person is not important, and they can use a human being as a resource. It won't cost them anything to start a bigger war. Economical crisis will bring EU to war with Russia. Same thing can happen in the United States.
Let me propose, in closing, that we get T-shirts made up that'll say, "Treat Alexander Ionov like the terrorist Al-Jilani," which means get rid of the $10 million bounty and we'll make you president of a country. Okay. Listen, thank you for watching this episode brought to you by the International Unity Club. We try to promote peace through dialogue and appreciate everything that TASS has done to provide this great facility. And Alexander, pleasure to meet you, young man.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.